So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another interview of the Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and today I'm joined by Dean Wells. He plays guitars and he also sings on the band Teramaze, which is a progressive metal band from Melbourne, Australia. So, first of all, Dean, how are you? How are you today?
Thanks for the introduction, man. I'm really good. Thanks, actually.
Good, good. So yes, it's always tricky for me to connect with Australian bands because of like the time zone difference. So you guys have been around since the 90s, and for people that don't know Teramaze, if you like bands like progressive metal bands like Tesseract, Dream Theater, I think you will dig them. They're going to put out their 11th album on May 24th. So tell us, Teramace, it's a band that I saw the promo, so I've been listening to some of your older music and the new material. Tell us a little bit of like the band history of people that maybe do not know the band.
Okay. Well, we did start in the mid '90s when we were kids. So we did two albums back then. Um, but then the band stopped around I think 2000,
Yeah,
2001.
I read on the internet 2000, you came back like 2005 or 2006.
Yeah. So I went off and learned because I was only young. I went off and learned like production, music production. Songwriting, pop stuff with different artists in Australia and working with different producers. So I sort of got my chops up with the production side of things. But I was writing heavy. I started writing a bit heavier stuff again, probably about 2009 or something. And the label at the time said to me, "Have you thought about doing another heavy album sort of thing?" And I'm like, hmm. So something sparked back in me. Yeah, so there was a big gap between the early start and then Anadonia, which would be this band now. So we haven't been going the whole time. There was, like
No, I
probably
saw
eight.
that you saw
Yeah,
there was some time that you weren't, and I was looking like you are listed as a progressive metal band, but on some parts you had the tag of a Christian progressive metal band. So I wasn't sure
uh,
what the correct one.
uh, I have a Christian faith, but the band is just a band.
Yeah,
What
sometimes
they
they
want
put
to,
the label, but yeah.
and so that's more of a personal thing that it ends up in the music, but it's just a band, play music, and what I want to write about's what I want to write about. But people like to label things, I suppose. It doesn't bother me, but we just play music. You know what I mean? It's whatever the song is about. Sometimes is whatever it's about, but yeah, and that probably would come from the earlier days. So um, we just yeah. But anyway, so there was a big gap, and then we end up releasing an album called Anadonia, which is probably the first album of this incantation of the band. Yeah, I mean, because I probably could have changed the name or whatever, and I thought, well, it's still my sort of music and my band. So I reignited it, and we did that album with Jeff Waters from Annihilator. Um, so that was interesting, and that made me go, this is what I got to do. This is what I want to do. This more progressive metal sort of music, and then from Anadonia up to now is really the time that we've been put into this band. You know what I mean? So I know it says somewhere we've been around since 95 or whatever, but such a big gap and so much time and learning different music and stuff. It's not a different band, but the gap makes the music sound a fair bit different, I mean, than the earlier stuff.
Plus,
So that's
it's different when you're very young.
yeah. And I was playing for I played guitar for 3 years when we got signed on the first album. So I had no idea what I was doing. I still don't. I was just like, riffing out. The second album was, a lot better, and that, got a groove from there. But after then, the amount that I grew as a musician was huge. I mean, with songwriting and production and vocals, and I had to really get my chops back up again. to write this style of music. So that's really the sort of history of the band, basically.
Yeah, no, and yeah, I know that you put out Doxology and Tears to Dust in the 90s, and then yeah, you took the time off. And the last album that you put out was in 2022, Flight of the Wounded, correct?
Yes.
So now
Uh,
you're getting.
yeah. We did a Della Volta, which was like a sort of not a compilation. It was just like a from the vault sort of different songs, kind of a compilation. That was Della Volta, but that's not a full length album.
Okay.
So yeah, Flight of the Wounded was the last
Yeah,
proper.
so the new album that you're going to be releasing in just a few weeks is called Eli, a wonderful fall from grace. So is this like a concept record, right? Because I was listening to it and it felt like it's telling a story, but I couldn't quite piece together the full story. So tell me a little bit about the concept of this record.
So Eli is. We had an album in 2014 called Her Halo.
Yeah,
Uh, so that album was our first go at like a concept album. And then we brought out Sorella Minore, which was a shorter album, but it had a 25-minute song on it a couple of years ago. And Eli is the third part of that trilogy, but Eli is actually the start. So we kind of went back.
So it's like a prequel.
Yes, like Star Wars, like, you know what I mean? Like, so.
Minus Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, no, we've got him in the band. It's the singer. He acts exactly like him. That's funny. But so we wanted to sort of go back and almost tell the story that made sense of those two albums instead of kind of doing another one forward, because Her Halo, it seemed like it started in the middle of a story. So Eli is the start, and basically those three albums now sort of flow sort of together now as a story. And there's also there's a sort of little book that goes with the album to explain what's actually happening in the albums, because sometimes, in music it's hard to just write like a story.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's
Coheed and Cambria does the same thing because it's kind of hard to follow the story. So give us a little bit of the gist of the story for this one.
Okay, so Eli is basically the star of the whole thing. His father sold him off for money. He was on a shipwreck. He found his way back to like this circus. He got given like powers to be this amazing magician thing from a like a fortune teller sort of. So he comes back and basically takes over, and he becomes this massive star. And part of it, the mask on the front cover, which sort of almost is his alter ego. But the story from there goes through twists and turns with his parents, and it's actually Eli, Her Halo, and Sorella Minore are all actually a dream. So it actually pops in and out of reality only little bits in some songs, which the book explains a little bit clearer than the songs. So this whole kind of trilogy is basically a dream, and there's a lot of split personalities in it, because by the time he gets to Her Halo, he's actually the clown and he's actually also the tyrant. So there's this love triangle in Her Halo. But yeah, basically the basic version of it. You know what I mean? Sorella ends up being about the sister, and so it's really about a guy dreaming that he's become this amazing magician and falls in love, and she doesn't love him, and sort of like a tragic story.
Yes, you're bumming me out.
Yeah, I like movies like Moulin Rouge and stuff like that. So all that stuff to get into the
When you
music.
said about the magicians, I thought of The Prestige, the one that's with Hugh Jackman from Australia, and Christian Bale. Is he from Australia too? Okay, no,
He's,
no, he's
but
not.
yeah, like I love all those sort of movies, Prestige, and there's a few other ones as well. So that style kind of helped. Not that we researched it, but that's kind of the vein we had for the music to feel like a bit of a movie, but in the style of Teramaze. So
Yeah, and the single that you chose for this album is called "Standing Ovation," which makes sense.
yeah,
I'm guessing this is the part in the record that the Eli thinks that he's done some great trick and he gets a standing ovation, but it's all in his head.
that's it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
pretty much
Why
it.
did you choose? That's a good single because it's like a under 6 minute track because this album is 8 tracks. Out of those 8 tracks, there's 6 songs and 2 interludes or intro. There's like an intro. There's 2 intros, one in the
Yeah.
beginning. So, but there's a song that's like 15 minutes. So, you show "Standing Ovation," which I think is one of the shorter songs.
Yeah.
Maybe because for a single makes sense. You're not gonna release the 14-minute epic that closes the album.
Yeah. Plus, we knew fairly early on that Standing Ovation would be the single. Just by I don't know, once we wrote the chorus, and it kind of gave you this feel of kind of how her Halo would feel, but it was, a little bit more, modern, bit more like the style we're doing now. And just upbeat, it's a bit more upbeat. The rest of the songs are probably a little bit more progressive, and they go on. Every song's a little bit of a journey, where Standing Ovation is sort of the more simpler, easier to digest song to get you into the story. The next song we've got coming out Friday is Step Right Up, which is longer, which is a bit more of an epic.
Yeah, and it goes with that theme of like the circus or the thing that you gotta step up and do the show. And yeah, that Step Right Up. Yeah, that's the third track on the record. Yeah, but because there's I listened to the album and I think it's for progressive there's some progressive that are like darker and harder. This is like it really reminded me a lot of like Dream Theater, because especially like the type of vocals that is like more hopeful, clean vocals. There's like a theatrics to the vocals as well. So you do vocals when you have the other lead singer. How do you, when you're doing vocals, how do you decide like what you want like to do? Because it's good to have 2 people singing vocals.
Well, it's still kind of new to us because in the pandemic, I was the only singer, and we released 3 or 4 albums with me singing. Nathan was on her Halo, and then when he come back, I realized that to play live, I can't sing and play a lot of this stuff. It's too hard. It's
Okay.
literally like I can sing it and I can play it, but to sing and play it, I never even thought about it. It's like it's just too difficult. Like there's a lot of going on. The vocal melodies are quite hard just on their own. So when Nathan come back, I'm like, well, you can sing pretty much everything live. I sing pieces that I think my voice is stronger, I suppose, or suits that bit. With Eli, um, Nathan's singing probably about 70% of it. My voice jumps in and out almost like a character, slightly. So there's a ballad on the album that, because we haven't highlighted who's singing what, because to us it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think it's important. No.
No, but I'm singing the ballad "Hands Are Tied." I think there was a review; they thought it was Nathan. I'm like, that's all right, whatever. But so like my voice made more sense to sing that song because it needed almost like a different character. It was his dad's sort of singing. So that's how we sort of navigated the songs. The first line on the first song is actually me singing. don't know why. We just kind of went, oh, that sounds cool. Because a lot of the time when I'm writing the music, I'm writing all the melodies. So
Mhm.
I'm sitting at home throwing the ideas down, and then I'll send them to Nathan and the guys. And sometimes they get used to my voice. You know what I mean? So they're like, oh, that bit's got to be you. And then Nathan will sing it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, sing that bit. So it's really sort of more about just the sound of the music. It's got nothing to do with our ego or I have to sing something or, you know what I mean? It's more about like what suits the song at that moment. And that's that's the first time we really try to do it properly is on Eli. It's the two voices. Um, plus some of the songs like Madame Roma, I couldn't sing and play that because the riffs are just constant and the vocals are constant. You know, it's like it's silly. So, so then I go,
Yeah,
yeah, okay, you
I
sing
bet
that.
I bet it would be hard. And you know, there not all bands can pull off two people singing and doing things like I remember I'm a huge 90s guy, and to me, Alice in Chains did it
Oh yeah,
perfectly.
yeah,
That's a band that can do the dual vocals. But the only
yep,
thing is that I could tell the difference of the vocals. Listening to this album, I didn't know there were two singers. So I couldn't tell the difference. So I was just enjoying the music and trying to comprehend part of the story. So I want to show the album cover for the record, and we can talk a little bit about the album cover. So here it is, Eli, A Wonderful Fall from Grace. So tell me a little bit about about the cover and what you're trying to convey with it.
it's really we actually had the cover before we wrote the album, so um, so it kind of almost gave us a bit of a symbol of who he is some sort of, you know, there's some sort of mask basically that represents his alter ego. That's really all that bit is. And we wanted to kind of keep it clean because there's so many layers to the story that we kind of didn't want the cover to tell too much of the story. You know what I mean? It's more specific about him. The story is about Eli, and that's basically, yeah, that's the mask he wears to do all these amazing things. And I think before it, he doesn't have the mask, so he's just plain old Eli. But part of his powers come from the mask a bit. That's basically how it is.
Yeah, who did the cover?
Um, I don't know the guy's name.
Okay,
It's in the credits somewhere.
yeah, I'll check
Not
it out
sure.
so I can credit the artist. But yeah, it suits the music, so it's a cool album cover. So tell me a little bit about the metal scene because I've been interviewing a lot of bands from Australia, and it's a country that I've always thought that you have amazing bands in so many different type of genres. You know, you have obviously you mentioned AC/DC. Back in the 90s, there was Silverchair, but now there's so many bands. I think Carnival's from there. If I don't, I think Dead Letter Circus. I don't. I know there's a lot of bands that I follow from there, and there's Psychroptic, which is like death metal. So many like different styles. Obviously, right now Parkway Drive is one of the more huger bands from Australia. So tell me a little about the more of the progressive metal scene in Australia.
I don't know if there is a progressive metal scene so much, but there is progressive metal bands. And because Australia is so big, um, I'd probably say we're the main progressive metal band in Melbourne. And then there's Caligula's Horse. I think they're in Brisbane, which is, you know, like,
Oh, I almost forgot Caligo. I love that band.
yeah, so they're I think they're in Brisbane, which is how many hours away is that? Like a 4 hour flight away. And then there's Voyager that are in Perth on the other side of Australia.
Oh
That's
yeah.
that's like 3 or 4 hours away too. So there's no real scene, but there's I think plenty you'd class as progressive. He's in Sydney, and there's those guys, all instrumental sort of stuff. Carnival are in Perth, I think. So it's so spread out, man. Like
Oh yeah.
I think we've only ever played with Voyager once, maybe twice. But we don't see any of these bands
It's
unless we played with Voyager in Europe. That was the last time we saw them at Frog Power 2019. So the scene really is not a scene. It's kind of like lots of bands here and lots of different like metal bands and another sort of more melodic metal like Vanishing Point. I don't know if you heard of those guys. They're from Melbourne. So it's like we kind of feel like you're a little bit on your own. You know what I mean? Like we try to look for other bands to play with. Like we're looking now for some shows and we're looking for other bands to play with us in different states. And it's like there's not many in Melbourne that are like us, that are more progressive metal. There's heavier bands and then there's probably a bit lighter bands. So it's kind of a weird progressive metal is a weird genre in Australia, even though there's good bands here, they're not everywhere. There's not lots of them. We can't sort of pick and choose who we play with, but we could kind of play with anyone. We played with a band called Avatar, who aren't progressive at all, like more of a metal
Oh, Avatar.
band.
Yeah, I've heard about that. They're from. I think they're somewhere from Europe. Yeah.
Yeah, Sweden. And so we supported them in Melbourne last year. We just changed our set to be a bit more metal. So we took some of the progressive stuff out and made it just a little bit more to suit the crowd because we thought, 12-minute songs might go straight over their heads. So, but that was a great gig. But we got that gig just because we have that metal side, slightly rock as well. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. There's no real scene here until other bands maybe come over. I think is it Leprous? They've been over here.
Oh,
Been trying to get.
I've seen Leprous. I saw Leprous with Haken.
Yeah, well, Haken are playing here soon. We were supposed to play with Haken a few years ago, but I got sick. So it's very spread out, Australia, as in the music scene. It's very, yeah, not like Europe where you can almost hop on a train and go from country to country. It's crazy, like it's amazing. But yeah, no, it kind of feels like we're sort of almost on our own in this, Melbourne anyway. I mean, I know lots of bands, but not our sort of style, I suppose.
No, yeah. I've talked to bands from Brisbane, only that I said the name wrong. I said Brisbane when I didn't know. I'm like, I didn't know how to pronounce it. But so yeah, but but there's so many bands. But yeah, it's such a huge, it's the biggest island continent in the world. It's huge. And I have a friend YouTuber from Sydney, and he lets me know no, yeah, no, here every you have to take if you want a tour, you can drive on a bus. It's easier to take a plane if you want to go to another city in the country.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You're like, no, you're not gonna drive. It's gonna be hard. So, how much of Teramaze sound do you think like that? How do you think you have evolved through the albums? Because you touched upon that you can play the progressive stuff, but you have the more metal stuff. Was that always a conscious decision in your mind that you want to have those two styles blend?
it's not really conscious sort of thing I thought about. It was more it really just goes usually by how I feel day to day.
Okay.
Really, if I write a riff that's kind of a bit more metal, it might end up being a bit more of a metal song, but with a bit more of a pop melody. We get classed as progressive metal, I suppose, because it's the best sort of what's the word, genre where we can explore different sounds.
Mm-hmm.
So we can be a little bit lighter. We can have to be heavier. We can write long songs. We've got a couple of songs that are short, almost a bit like commercial sounding, The earlier stuff, like Anadonia, is a lot more metal. With so it usually comes with me just trying to better what I did before, and trying something maybe new. Or sometimes I'll kind of go back and go, oh, maybe I'll write something a bit more metal for a bit of fun. So a lot of the ideas are just spontaneous. There's no real thought about it. With Eli, we had one piece of music and went, this sounds like her Halo, which I kind of feel like we've moved away from that sound for a bit. So I kind of had to go back a little bit style-wise to get that sort of story feel. You know what I mean? Like make the songs a bit more, what's the word, progressive, I suppose. So that was a little bit of a challenge to try to keep it part of the story so it didn't feel disjointed, but still sound like something fresh. So if you've only ever heard Eli, it should stand up on its own. But when you hear her Halo and Sorella, it should feel like it's part of those. But the other album's a little bit different, just purely by what was going on at the time. Like the pandemic albums sound different because we were treated like shit in Australia, and a lot of it was frustration driven. And
Yeah, I'm guessing you were mad.
oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it was pretty crazy here, man. It was like stupid. It was just idiotic. It was just
That you
control.
Was it that you couldn't go out? Because I wasn't in Puerto Rico at that time. I was in Miami, and Miami, like the first months they cared, they didn't give a they didn't give a shit. But in Puerto Rico, they had like a strict like curfew, like people couldn't go at night, and
Oh, dude, Melbourne was the worst in the world for. They locked us all away for months. Like months, couldn't leave the house after 8 o'clock. Couldn't do this, couldn't do that. To wear a mask everywhere. I mean, I didn't do any of this stuff, but I just went, I'm not doing this. I'm writing albums, and the world can go on believing some people on TV. Because I mean, I'd be a hypocrite if I just went along with all this stuff because I didn't believe in it all. So some people call you crazy, but I'm like, it didn't make any sense. Now everyone can have COVID. No one cares. And it's like, well, you were locking us down because 3 people had it in the whole country, shooting at us with rubber bullets, like the army and stuff, shooting at like my daughter and stuff for going to protests. I'm like, this was crazy over like a flu. And I'm like, a lot of my frustration was that control, the amount of control, and people just like, yes, we'll do as you want. I'm like, since when did we all trust the government in any country? I don't trust any government. You know what I mean? I was like, so those albums were fueled by that frustration for me. And just a lot of those sort of things. Not that they're all angry, but they were definitely, no one else could do anything here. They destroyed businesses. They just people killing themselves. It was like it was crazy for this sort of invisible thing that I never been sick the whole time. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't even know anyone who was sick. So it was so fear driven that we see now that a lot of it was just absolute control, money. You know, the rich got rich and the middle class basically become poor. It's what happened over here. So, you know, that stuff affects me. So as a songwriter, what do? You write music about about it. And people, you know, I was copping a bit of shit online for it. I'm like, I don't care, man. I'm like, I'm always curious. As an artist, we've got to look at every side and kind of go, this doesn't make any sense. I'm okay with being bullied on that sort of thing, you know what I mean? Like the black sheep of the family. But that's why I chose to be, I don't even know if I chose to be a songwriter, but I sort of absorb everything and then try to turn into music and try to get a positive spin on it or make people think. You know what I mean? It's like that's really why I do the music. It's an outlet, but it's also a way of sort of having a voice without bashing someone over head over it and go, you know, maybe thinking about certain things that people don't think of when they're just doing their everyday sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why there was like so much music in the pandemic. It's
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of people well, not personally, but yeah, there's some people that died. But yeah, I went out well, with the mask, but in Miami it wasn't that strict. No, no, you couldn't go, but you could go out at night. In Puerto Rico, you couldn't go out at night. And and I felt like, why?
What?
Like you,
What?
like do you only do you get does he take a vacation through the day? I didn't know, but yeah,
Exactly. Like none of it made sense.
yeah.
None of
But
it. So
but
it just
thankfully
changed.
thankfully that's over, and shows are back on, and life continues. So so yeah, so I can tell if you couldn't go out why like you would be pissed if you but like only at night, or you go out in the day because you have to get groceries, man.
Only like for an hour or something. It was like crazy, man.
Or yeah, I think in Puerto Rico they did something that people some cars had to go out this day. In Miami, no, in the Miami, the only thing that was is that if you went out, you had to if you went to a grocery store, you have to put the mask, but you could go out and
Yeah,
walk.
so I think
Yeah,
it was either what it was, or it was either like, why is every country completely different?
yeah,
Because the governments had their own agenda.
yeah,
That's why.
yeah. But
Yeah, they were
I
bashing old
didn't.
ladies sitting in a park here.
So I didn't know Australia was so bad in that. Yeah, I didn't. But yeah, apparently, yeah. So now I know. So yeah. So now you're less angry in the album. So you have a happier record.
Yeah, well, I always try to find the light at the end of the tunnel, regardless of what's happening.
Yeah.
But Eli's almost it's almost fantasy. You know what I mean? Not that I would say it's fantasy, but it's a bit more like a movie. You know what I mean? We can sort of just make whatever we want with it, I suppose. You know what I mean? Like, so
And
that's what
would you ever do shows where you play those free concept records because they follow a story, or that would be a huge undertaking?
we've thought about it. That's a long show.
That
That
would be
would be
you
two
could
and a
do like
half.
Dream Theater. I think I've seen Dream Theater twice, and they have like an interlude, or Steven Wilson does the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Well, it's a lot. It's a lot of music. We could do it. And actually, probably Sorella is probably the hardest because it's a 25-minute song that it chops and changes a lot, but it doesn't really stop. So it doesn't stop where the other songs you can stop and have a break.
Yeah,
So
that's Dream Theater territory, 25-minute songs. Like,
yeah, I know.
so for you, if if you could open for any band, like which would be the band that you love to open a show for, or maybe tour with?
Dream Theater.
Yeah, I Dream with Mike Portnoy,
Metallica. Yeah,
On the drums.
yeah. Oh, either. But yeah, Mike
Oh, you have
Portnoy.
to say now with Mark because Mike's back in the band.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's all good. I like both, but yeah, I grew up on you know Dream Theater with Portnoy.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, but to me, they're the pinnacle of progressive metal. So there's lots of other bands. Like I'd love to play with, Metallica. It's Megadeth or whoever. But Dream Theater are kind of like, the kind of heroes that I'm like aiming. They're the benchmark to me for progressive metal. It's like if I can get close to that, I'll be happy. But I want to do my own thing. But the influences all, they get in there, especially when you're writing long songs. People are always going to go, oh, it's like Dream Theater. I'm like, okay, but is it a good song? And it's like, yeah, it's a good song. Okay, that's the main thing. So
So
always trying to.
after you play a 25-minute song, be honest, do you need like a few minutes to rest your hand? Because 25 minutes, that's of a song, that's hard.
Um, Playing an hour and a half actually of our music is tough. Not so much on the hands because the adrenaline's going, and it's
Mm,
more on uh, concentration.
mhm,
Concentration is hardest, and because I'm singing and playing a lot, so when we've got complicated songs like with Dream Theater, like Petrucci doesn't sing much, but I'm singing a lot,
No,
so
he
I'm sort of
doesn't. He only plays guitar. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm singing and playing a lot of the time. I'm doing all the harmonies. I'm doing some mains, do most of the solos. So for me, Teramaze music live is the hardest thing that I do, but that's what the challenge is. So I've kind of made it half myself, but I love that challenge. And I've got a great band as well. I've got a great second guitarist, Chris, and Nathan's a good singer. So we can cover a lot of different stuff, I suppose. But for me, I just love the challenge of our style of music, whatever it is, you know, man. So it's like, yeah, it's always, every gig's difficult, but I suppose we sort of made it like that. So that's the
Yeah.
fun of it.
Nice. So once the album is out, what are the immediate plans for Teramaze?
Um, we're booking some shows in Australia at the moment. We were trying to get over to Europe in October, but not quite sure about that at the moment. We definitely want to come to America. Last time we were supposed to play America, the band went and I ended up in hospital. Um,
Yeah,
so there,
and you don't want to be in the hospital in America, man.
no,
They
no,
have a very bad healthcare system. Like you
mm,
would go like, oh, they put a band-aid on your finger. That would be $500. They'll be like that. Yeah, that's something I don't miss about living in Miami, especially
yeah.
going to the dentist. Yeah, no,
Well,
it's expensive.
so you're in Puerto Rico. So where's that? That's down,
So Puerto Rico is in the Caribbean.
right.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
Florida, then you have Cuba, then
Yeah,
Haiti, Dominican Republic, and then there's Puerto Rico.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, we'd play anywhere if we could get there. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it's an island, but very tiny compared to Australia. But yeah, no, it's but yeah, we have bands here and people like their progressive metal here as well. So yeah, so you're gonna book some shows and the album's
We
gonna
do.
be out. Where can people pre-order the record?
Um, Teramaze.com.au, Bandcamp. In America, uh, there's a small company called Laser Edge. They've got the wholesaler of it.
Hmm.
In Europe, there's a place called Just for Kicks. They've been stocking our album there for a while. But you know, the main places is our webpage and Bandcamp. Bandcamp seems to be really good for people to buy CDs from. So
Yeah, and they
uh,
have the Bandcamp Fridays where the artist gets more of the cut. So yeah. So
we
yeah.
didn't even know about. I didn't even know about Bandcamp because I've been on labels for so long, and then
Mhm.
we went independent on the album I Wonder, and everyone's like, "Oh, where's your Bandcamp?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" So, but Bandcamp has done.
You probably thought it was a place. Like, is this a
Yeah,
place
no, it sounded like
where bands camp? And
it sounded like some sort of software because there's a garage band and Bandcamp. So that site has actually done really well for us. Like even financially, we were like, okay, like there was a whole untapped place where people get music, and like so that's been great. And then you know it'll be on Spotify and
yeah,
Apple.
but Spotify's not gonna pay you shit.
No.
You'll get
Like a couple.
like here you have half a like here's the yeah no yeah but it's yeah it's good to get your music out there and people listen to it. So yeah, I'll put the link for the band so people who want to pre-order the album can do it. Is it gonna be out on vinyl, CDs, cassettes?
So CDs at the moment, vinyl for us because our albums are long is just too expensive, and
Oh yeah,
they
because you
take it.
have to put like four records to fit in like the yeah I know yeah that's
So
that's if you should have chosen like like pop like pop punk with the 2 minute songs and
yeah,
you could
yeah.
fit a whole album in one side, but no progressive metal, yeah, it's not kind for bands, because with the vinyl, like you're you get like a lot of variants, like to
Yeah,
just
and it costs a fortune to actually make them. So, and we don't even know if we'll sell them. So
yeah.
at this point we're kind of like, well, you'd have to sell them for like $100 each, and I'm like, that's insane. Like, just seems like a very expensive thing that I don't want to charge fans that much money, and I don't want to have to fork out $6,000 to just get 100 of them.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
know what you mean. Yeah.
crazy, man. So until that kind of comes down, there'll just be CDs and digital downloads and stuff like that. That we actually did look into tapes because people were asking about it.
Apparently, it's a collector thing. I don't understand it. I remember having tapes. I hated them. Like sometimes the machine would eat the tapes, and if you fast forward, like it would break easily. It was like a worst format
Yeah.
ever. So I
Mm.
don't understand why people want tapes.
Yeah, but they're a little bit cheaper, but they still end up sort of expensive for something that I have no idea that if people are going to buy them. So,
Yeah.
what I mean, like, because we're independent now, we've got to be smart with how we spend money, because we do an album every 6 months. Do you know what I mean? We do an album every year, and it costs a bit to get everything done. You know what I mean? So, um, if it made sense to do the vinyl and the prices come down and we can not sell them for $100, then we'll do it. We'll probably do it a few of our albums, but at the moment it seems like there's a massive wait for them too,
Oh
to
yeah,
get them
there's
huge.
a massive weight and stuff. So, Dean, before I let you go, so you can enjoy the rest of your almost afternoon over there, like since you love a lot of like progressive metal, uh, like pre-progressive records, progressive metal records that like to this day you still listen to and love.
Three.
We could do five.
I don't even know if I have five, but
Okay.
uh, Dream Theater is Awake.
Mm.
Um, Circus Maximus 9.
Oh, that's a band that I haven't heard in a while, and I remember that. Yeah,
Mm.
great band. I think I don't know what happened to them. I haven't listened to them in a while.
Yeah, I think they're coming back to do some shows and maybe an album. I'm not quite sure. Um, probably Systematic Chaos, Dream Theater too.
Oh,
Uh,
see,
I seem to
that's not
always.
a one. That's not one that people pick the most because that's more in their later 2000 eras. And that's the one that has a song called "Forsaken," right?
Yeah, that album got me back into kind of doing Teramaze, which is why I like it. It a little bit heavier, a little bit rawer. I was
Mm.
like, I kind of missed that, and then I saw that tour, and I was like, ah.
That's the tour
So,
that I saw them too, as well. And I
mm,
remember, yeah, I remember. That's the one that has like ants. There's like ants on the cover, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that show I was starting back up Teramaze right then. So I hadn't done progressive music since I was a teenager. So that album and that tour is a massive reason why Teramaze exists now. So definitely, I love that album.
Nice. So,
Yeah.
Dean,
So
yeah, I want to thank you for taking some time of your day to joining me here virtually to talk. I'm not on the couch today. It's not here. But I have my logo. Uh, but thank you for talking about Teramaze, about the upcoming album and everything. So, people, the new Teramaze out on May 24th. I post the link for people who want to pre-order and want to support the band any way they can. So, anything that you like to say to the fans before we go?
just thanks for having me, and I hope you find the album somewhere online and enjoy it the same way we enjoyed writing it and recording it. And, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So, until next time, people, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and goodbye.